we've been doing sports architecture for approximately 22 years, and that has created a portfolio for us of stadiums and arenas and sports centres and latterly training centres around the world. It's what we do, it's in our blood, and of course being English, it's all about football. Today in this brief slot, I'm going to focus on one particular training ground that we've recently completed. We're hearing at this event a great deal about the stadiums, and of course they are the focal point of what 2022 will be all about. But as part of the whole package and the wider precinct and the wider venues required, of course, there are an awful lot of training centres, 4-to-1 ratio of training centres to stadiums. There's currently a template procurement process in place for the training centres, and that makes good sense when you have such a large number to produce for a particular event. But of course there will be legacy training centres as well, probably allied to particular clubs, and they will be highly bespoke and tailored, either in the principal mode for event, but certainly in the legacy mode. Tottenham Hotspur Training Centre is very different to most of the venues that are being discussed today, because this is a highly private venue. It did have a stakeholder group, of course, in the sense that it had complex planning issues, but the client itself was very focused and very private and very particular. The training centres in England have been renewed and are being renewed progressively over the coming years. There's a system in place called the Elite Players Performance Plan, which is an initiative set up by the English FA to, from the grassroots level up, increase the quality of ultimately the English national side. And this requirement is being placed on the top clubs within the English game to create centres of excellence for training for boys from 9 through to 18, through reserves and into the first team. And Tottenham's brief was not only meet the highest aspirations of EPPP, but no mean challenge from the chairman in saying, we want you to design us the best training centre in the UK, if not in Europe. So that was quite something, but they worked with us to achieve that. The centre itself is all about the brand. The brand is intrinsic to everything about the centre. It's part of what defines the architecture and what defines the sense of arrival. Here is the academy entrance. This is also the parents area and the press breakout and assembly. Branded, of course, you no doubt where you are and which club you've arrived at. The press area is here, and new players, new managers, of which we've had a few over the years, are introduced here. The academy wing is all about a parallel education as well. Because not every boy makes it. In various cut-off years, boys are told they're not quite good enough, and so they have a consistent day release or full-time parallel education within the club. They have a gym specific to their age group and their particular needs. And throughout the academy, the branded spaces and the aspirational messages are consistent. They know what they're aiming towards. The materials palette itself is very clear about the raw to the finished. We have bare block work, simple, functional within the academy. Of course, this translates to something much more finished and higher quality within the first team areas. The finishes in the academy would be fabrics of quality, but nothing like the quality of bespoke furniture. Of course, ergonomic furniture as well. These are highly trained athletes. Raw stone for the academy to highly finished polished stone and craftsmanship in the first team areas. This is the first team entrance, very different, always though with reference to the pitches, because it's all about the grass. That's what it's all about. This is the first team changing area, focused concentrically on the manager and on the tactics board, sense of team and involvement and commitment. Great investment in hydrotherapy, both for fitness and rehabilitation. There's a resistance pool. There are obviously hot and cold plunge pools. A superb recovery, rehabilitation and fitness gym. Altitude rooms are a big component of Spurs training philosophy. The main gym itself is superbly appointed, overlooking the training grounds and itself overlooked by the dining facilities. The Players' Lounge required a particularly high specification. A lot of effort was put into the quality and range of facilities in the leisure areas so that the players would be encouraged to stay. The shared areas within the hub are essentially the dining areas, but also there are breakout meeting rooms. They're very carefully controlled nutritional, the diet elements here, and the two come together and both overlook the main indoor hall. This is a 60 by 80 metre 4G hall that gives all year round training capability, of course, and there are artificial pitches externally as well. So, to conclude, some lessons learned from the experience. Well, ultimately there's a lot there about the inside of the building, what the facilities are like, but it is all about the grass. These are professionals who apply their sport externally on real grass. The first team are not interested in practicing or playing on the artificial pitches, they only want to practice on the grass. So the quality of the pitches is superb. There is a full Deso pitch, exactly the same size and specification as the main stadium pitch, and that's what they play on. It's under soil heated, it's protected, it's available year round. So the field of play is really what it's all about. Marginal gains. There are obviously some very fine margins within success and failure. Within the Premier League it's highly competitive, and the margins about player fitness for the full 90 and player recovering and getting back into that squad, the active squad after injury, are key, of course, and those recovery times are key. But it's worth looking and challenging some of the more intensive, because some of these spaces are very high cost per square metre. Some of the medical and rehabilitation facilities can be extremely expensive, and the marginal gains for performance improvement are worth looking at. The third one, well, really, over the time, we've had 8 managers pass through our collective hands as part of our briefing process at Tottenham. So it's fair to say that in the English Premier League, certainly a manager is only till Christmas, not for life. So I'd be careful that not to take the brief specifically from managerial personalities obviously have an effect. So what we actually agreed with the club relatively early on, this is a club premise, and its philosophy and its overarching design and requirements are based on the club needs, because the managers will come and go. And finally, watch the watchers. Control of the boundaries and privacy of the boundaries is quite key. Certainly when you're in a club mode, and certainly for international training mode, of course, when you get those tactical, positional, strategic movements on the pitches, who's training, what configurations, certainly the set piece moves, clubs and countries like their privacy in those moments. Limited for time, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Very happy to take questions.